Oh, Pistol. We got Pistol about a month ago after she sustained quite a bit of injury. And the owner spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to bring her back from this injury. And she had a lot of stall rest. Her whole life was turned upside down from what she was used to. And when she came back, she wasn't the sweet little mare we all fell in love with. She was mean. I think Autumn even called her a one day. So we scoped her. She was ate up with glandular ulcers. Glandular ulcers suck. I hate diagnosing them. I hate telling people they got to treat them because sometimes they get better in a month, sometimes they stay the same, sometimes they get worse. So today's fate lies on the scope, and it lies on when we get all the way back to where it empties into the small intestine. So when we get there, we'll know whether she can come home or not, because I got 2 little girls that really want to see her every day.
Gastroscopy is the fancy term for a stomach scope. We do these standing with light sedation. My drugs of choice are Dorm and Rompin, and that combo seems to work very well with these horses. Sedation in horses is about 10% science and 90% art, because they all act a little bit different. And I always wonder what goes through these horses' heads when we grab them and put them in strange places and do strange things to them. But it's such a pleasure to work on horses like Pistol that are broke and sweet and amenable to the things we put them through, because I think at the end of the day, they know we're here to help them. And sometimes they can give you that look, like they give you a thank you look, and that makes it all worth a while. So Pistol will be sedated lightly, and this procedure is surprisingly well tolerated. It's no different than if you've ever had a horse tube for colic or any other thing. It's just that this tube has a camera. So here's her little IV shot right in the jugular. It'll kick in pretty quick, and then we'll get the scope in there and see how we did the past month of treating her.
All right, Pistol, get ready, because this is going to be unpleasant for a second. But you're such a sweet horse, you'll be fine. And thank God for the drugs, right?
So here it comes, Pistol, the worst part.
Okay.
Which lasts about
Ready?
2 seconds.
Is it rolling?
Yeah.
Now we're in the back of the throat. There's her windpipe, and her esophagus is hiding right over there in that corner, and we'll have to get her to swallow the tube. We learned our gastroscopy technique from the best, Dr. Hoyt Jeremy, who works for Boehringer Ingelheim. He trained us and continues to train us and consult with us on some of these difficult cases. He's a wealth of knowledge and a great teacher and an awesome veterinarian, and because of him and his training, we have helped so many horses with this. So big thank you to you guys and for developing GastroGuard, which works.
Come back just a little. All right, you can drop. So scoping horses, at least for gastroscopy, is kind of a 3-man sport. So in the video, my tech Autumn's holding the horse. I've got Jenny. So when we scope horses, it takes 3 people. The veterinarian usually drives the scope. My tech Autumn is passing it or shoving it in her nose, and then the other girl in the video is Jenny. She's a vet student that works for us, and she's holding the horse and making sure everything's controlled in that environment, because things can go wrong. If they don't swallow it and the tube goes back, it ends up in their mouth, and then you get about a $15,000 chomp on the end of your scope, and then you can't even do the exam, and then you sit in a corner and cry.
So you'll see that tube going up to my mouth. That is connected to the scope and all the way down to the end. So while we're doing this, I'll be inflating the stomach. And Pistol cooperated and swallowed the scope, so now we are in her esophagus. And that's the tube that connects her mouth to the stomach. We watch the whole time we're going down as Autumn advances the scope to make sure we're going the right way, and I'm blowing air the whole time through that tube to blow up that esophagus so the scope can go down, and that air will end up in her stomach too, which will blow it up so we can see.
The eagle has landed. We are now in her stomach. And you can see the two different layers. That top part that's white is the same lining as her esophagus and same as ours. So when they get ulcers up there, it probably feels like heartburn. I don't know if you've ever had heartburn, but heartburn sucks. And that's probably how these horses feel. So no wonder they're cranky when you try to put a saddle on them and cinch it down to their chest. I'd pin my ears too if I could.
And there's water and air connected to the scope that we can keep the camera clean at the end. There was a little bit there. And I'm going to continue to blow up the stomach so we can see how everything looks in there.
Squamous looks pretty.
There's a little bit of feed left, which is normal, even though she hasn't ate for a very long time. And look at how much scope is hanging down there. It's a long way from their mouth to the stomach. And our scope is over 10 feet long, and some of those big horses, we use every inch of it to get back where we need to get to see. Continue to blow it up. And we're going to go back to the small, where it empties into the small intestine first. Pistol doesn't have a care in the world right now. Look at her bottom lip just hanging out there. And Autumn's pushing the scope in, and we're driving around the stomach to get back to the pylorus where it empties into the duodenum right there, that little hole.
Ready?
And I'm going to flush some water in there to wash all that debris off so we can get a full exam. This is where she was ate up with ulcers before. It's a very common place in horses to have ulcers down here. That's why it's important to get a full exam. Otherwise, you can miss this if their stomach's full of feed and you can't get back there. We know stress plays a very important role in ulcers down here, although they're pretty poorly understood.
Do I get in there, you think?
I'm moving a little. I'm just not sure takers.
So now we're going to drive the scope through that pylorus, or that little opening right there. And we're going to look into her duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. And Autumn made this look really easy. Sometimes it's a challenge.
So now we're in our small intestine, and as you can see in the video, there's bile everywhere. Horses do not have gallbladders, and one reason is they're supposed to graze continuously all day, so they have no reason to release a bunch of bile. It's just a continuous drip. So Pistol has it ate in 14 hours, but her stomach's still full of acid, and she's still just cranking bile out. A lot of the bile ends up back in the stomach too when they don't eat, so that contributes to ulcers as well. So just another little tidbit. We might even get to see it dripping out in the video. I don't know. Look at that bile.
We go back to this region first because the rest of the stomach, you saw that feed in there earlier, we usually have to wash that off.
Yeah.
And that requires a lot of water, and if we put too much water in there as we get back to the pylorus, it gets in our way. So that's what we're hooking up here, is our little flushing device through the same tube I used to blow it up. There's the water coming off. We want to wash all that feed off because you can get some that'll hide lesions that are important to see the whole thing and know guides our treatment. And that's the top of her stomach there. Look how beautiful that squamous mucosa is. After a month of treatment, her stomach is textbook perfect, back to normal.
Okay, go forward on them. Hang on, let me take one.
And we also saved some pictures here on the computer for records and rechecks.
I think that's just feed.
And look at that clear line between the two layers. That line's called the margo plicatus. It's very distinct where the two layers of the stomach separate there.
Yeah. No.
And this is a pretty cool view right here. You can see the stomach coming in from the esophagus, and it's curled around, and then under that little lip right there is the pylorus, or in the antrum, where it empties into that small intestine.
Okay.
Since we started scoping horses a few years ago, we've helped so many feel better. This procedure itself, we actually enjoy. It's fun to do. It's like a giant toy in a video game. But at the same time, we're finding problems in these horses, and we have the medications to fix them and get them back to themselves. So it's a very rewarding thing. It can be a little cumbersome. There's a bit of a learning curve. Like I said, we learned from Dr. Hoyt Jeremy, who without his help, it would be a disaster trying to figure this out. So if you're a vet watching this and you're thinking about getting one, just pull the trigger and buy a gastroscope. Call your Boehringer Ingelheim rep. Get in touch with Dr. Hoyt and get the training set up, because trust me, it'll be worth it. It's so rewarding when people get their horses back that have been affected by this disease. So we'll make sure we got all the pictures we need in case we end up back in here again.
Go forward.
And the stomach is blown up like a giant balloon right now.
Yeah. I think the only pictures I'll need are upper lesions. But... So in this next part, watch how when we take the air out of the stomach, we blew up the stomach with. So watch how that stomach deflates and watch how that acid rises up. And as soon as it touches the white part, it's like holding a lighter to your hand and burning. So that's why a lot of these horses get ulcers in the top part that don't eat all day and stand around in a stall, and with their stomach empty, the acid just burns a hole up there. You can get the stomach deflating, John. I'll look down. Go forward a little, Autumn. Okay.
So you can actually see in this shot, in that bottom right-hand corner of the monitor, that acid and some of the water we put in there, but it's already touching that white part of that squamous mucosa, and that's a really common spot for ulcers. We see that a lot, and that's the reason. That's one of the first places that gets exposed to acid if that stomach's empty and doesn't have a bunch of roughage in there.
Press the little square down.
Go forward. Come back. Hurry. Okay.
So now it's deflating. I'm going to drive around where we can see that acid rising up.
Okay.
There it is. That really mimics a horse's stomach that's just standing around with no feed in it. Now that our suction's finally working.
Run, 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 run. Okay. Let me get a couple of us off, I guess.
So on the way out of the stomach, we've got a little pocket of air that'll follow the scope out, and that's when we examine the esophagus for any lesions. We'll save some pictures of that too.
Good job, Pistol. You're a trooper. Let's feed her.
Pistol! You got to come home, and this right here is why we have worked so hard to help her. My favorite horses to work on are those that are loved by little girls, and it seriously drives my passion to help these horses feel their best. And I'm taking these videos myself, and I'm just smiling ear to ear.
This is what it feels like, Harper. This is what it feels like.
Well, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to watch the first episode of Pistol, click right over there where we shockwave and do a regional limb perfusion and all kinds of fancy stuff. And be sure to visit our PRINTIFY store for early access for some really fun stuff we're working on. Oh, there's a link down here. Right here? Right here. Or maybe up there. We don't know. Thanks for watching.